Here, this is what it is. Yep. All right, so we're starting the August 21st CPA meeting at 6:30 p.m. Did everybody get the minutes? Does everybody have copies of this stuff if they need it? Good. Okay. Any changes or questions about minutes from last month? Nope, good. Someone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from July 17th.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Jamie, do you want to go over account balances of projects, or do you want to do it later?
So reserve for open space, $52,000.52. Reserve for historic preservation, $88,265.91. Affordable housing is $101,812.34.
The cents are really important.
I know.
You can round up.
It was balanced.
I know.
Reserve fund, $280,330, and undesignated is $1.4 million. So for a total of just shy of $2 million.
All right. Indeed. Is there any member of the public here that is going to wants to speak about an issue that's not related to Old City Hall?
Gentlemen. I'm sorry. I'm sticking Harry's on the doors already. I'm answering one of his questions.
No, we're good. So the only thing that we have on the docket tonight is City of Easthampton City Space Old Town Hall lobby. They came in just under the gun, I know through not their own fault at all, with the pricing update that everybody got. So it's sort of substantially over what the expectation was, I'm assuming. So just as a reminder, the initial request to us was 117, and they were assuming the total project cost was 250, and the total project cost is more like 330 to 360. So I don't know if you guys want to start with questions, if you guys want to talk.
Well, let me just start by saying we did take your advice. At the last meeting, you said you thought our numbers were low and suggested that, we do more research into this and get more accurate numbers. That's the good news. The unfortunate news is the numbers that came in. I mean, I think we were all just as shocked as anyone else.
Yeah.
We never anticipated that this would just grow the way it did. So I just wanted to put that up there.
Okay.
I feel like I'm asking my parents for money right now, and and I'm a nervous wreck about it.
Please don't be nervous.
So, but anyway, we did have several meetings with the architects, and really hashed out a lot of details. They have, you see some of the designs that they have suggested. I think their work is beautiful, and I guess I'll just say that, I might have even said this last time, that if we are going to do this renovation and we're going to bring in all these contractors, we just want to do it right, and I don't really want to do it in stages, but I understand if that's what has to happen. Okay. So on that note, if you want to start reviewing the estimate, we can do that. Or
Is your ask to us going to change?
is it with the amount?
Yeah.
No.
It's not. Isn't that an increase?
No. I mean, other than what the new estimate is. Is that what you're asking?
I think you said, are you going to ask for more than 117?
So what's the new request?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
Sorry.
I thought were we going to ask more than what?
No.
Our overage is already. No, we are still asking for it's almost 270,000.
So you're
That's
increasing.
that's if we were to really do everything.
Yeah.
That was on our punch list.
Okay. So you're going to increase your ask to us by 100,000.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
So it's 217 now?
MAI,
Yeah.
it's 270, MAI.
270?
Yeah, and it's 270, it's 269,000.
Right.
And, yeah, and the reason why is because that $361,000 does not include the architect fee as well, which is the 10% fee. So that would be an additional $30,000.
Yes.
So the
that
total
is
project cost would, at the
Ev-
high end,
yes.
390.
Would be about
About
400,000.
400,000.
Yeah, 336.
Yeah, yeah, about 400,000.
397.
That's with, right.
That's the high end.
That's the high end with our
Yeah.
133 grant we're receiving.
And I'm assuming you're still on the same timeline.
Yes. Originally this grant, we were supposed to have the work done by December, but they've
Right.
extended that till June.
Oh,
To June.
okay,
So
that's what we need to know.
Yeah, so we now have till June.
That's news, yeah.
Yeah.
However, as far as in regards to the RFP, I'm gonna ask Melissa, if you don't mind, would that change how that is presented?
Well, we were hoping to go out for that now, and I did talk with the architects that they were concerned about the timeline as well, simply because I'd like to go out with the RFP now, assuming that we're gonna have this done by early spring, just because to push it to the end is, well, that creates other problems, I guess, is what I want to say. And so I did talk with the architect about that, and, they had in their schedule the original timeline of December, and they were relieved to have a little breathing room on the end of that, but I don't think they have availability necessarily for a full year of time with us. And so because a part of their RFP is project management for us, we need, they've sort of put us in a certain time frame for the project. So yes, we have till June, but in my mind, I'm thinking March, just as far as managing the project. And and we're still looking at going out to bid now on the construction based on what you guys decide, because if we wait for the next round, that'll put us well past that deadline, just because of your guys' schedule.
Don't blame just us. City council.
No, I understand, but you know what I
I'm
mean,
just
there's a
teasing you.
cycle, and
Yes,
it's-
yes.
It's not one meeting, it's
Yes.
several meetings with both groups, so.
Yep.
And I also would like to add, one of the reasons why the numbers came up so much, and this came out of the last meeting with the architects, is there was a misunderstanding about the amount of work. They thought we were only doing, as you walk in the building, they thought we were only doing renovations in the lobby, the very front part, including restrooms and floor painting. It was always in my mind that it was the lobby and that long center hallway that you go through, and they didn't realize we wanted work done there as well, and that's a good third of this budget, and so that's why the numbers went up so much.
And also, there was we had some engineers in the building, and there's some accessibility issues that we've addressed with the building inspector already about the bathrooms, and there's also some plumbing issues as far as the grading and the slant of the plumbing for the bathrooms, which is not going the right direction.
Which is why it doesn't work now. It's been dysfunctional for a while.
So, the original estimate didn't anticipate that the plumbing it anticipated that the existing plumbing was functional and it wouldn't have to be all re-piped, and now it does, and therefore it brings up all other code issues, and everything has to be replaced. So that I know that one of the numbers that went up substantially was plumbing due to that.
In Town Hall, the whole boiler system is in the back of the building. And what we're trying to do is repair everything that's in the front of the building, and just the length of that, and it involves the heat, it involves the water, and again, this is all additional expenses that came up.
So does this project cover everything that you want to do on the first floor, or is there going to be a possibility of more stuff? This would pretty much complete what your vision is for the first floor?
For the lobby and central corridor, yes. And it does not include, eventually, we would like to get the ballroom up and running, but that's down the line. That's,
This would go to the second floor landing, so.
Right.
And they suggested that mostly because when you come into the building, you look up and you see the two stairwells to either side. So the viewing space of the visitor would see the complete renovation and not sort of, a partial renovation.
Right.
There was also the shift in the heating, the front heating area. They found a possible way to pull from the steam heat from the basement. However, the piping goes along the center of the room, so they'll have to do some duct work so that the grates are not in the center of the lobby, but on the side. So that was an additional increase as well.
When you mentioned the ballroom, is
Yes.
is that in the back, in the first floor? Or is that
No, that's
upstairs?
the second floor. It's currently, it's not usable because there's so many code violations.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's, down the line, City Space would like to do our own capital campaign. But again, we're concentrating on this first. Jim?
Burns took me on a tour.
Oh, great.
Since the last meeting, and I understand the layout, but on this sheet, like when you mentioned, and I understand that you're doing the hallway, and the flywheel like is down at the end
Well,
of the hallway.
we would like to.
No,
Yeah.
that's yours.
Yes,
Oh.
yeah.
But when you say like on here, flywheel opening, what does that exactly mean? In other words, just
The doors that actually go into the flywheel space. And right now,
Are those at the end of the hallway or
They're-
on the
Yeah.
left?
It's
No,
at the
straight ahead,
very,
right?
in center at the very end of the
Yeah.
hallway. It's actually the doors that actually go into the flywheel space.
Yeah, that-
And they were put up very haphazardly, to be honest with you. When Flywheel first moved in there, we knew we needed doors with push bars, I guess. And so some volunteers at Flywheel sort of just banged this together. But if you were to look at it, it's
Back together.
yeah. It's going to be, what I was saying is it's going to be, if we're doing this major renovation to this lobby, this door is just going to stand out like mad, And I feel the same way about and there's also this door here. This is the partition from the lobby that goes into the hallway.
Yep.
And that's what this drawing is for, is to redo that, to match, to replace this. And again, do we have to do it now? But if, it's that same sort of line of thought that, well, if we're going to really do this, let's put it all together now. Because that's ugly too. It's just as bad as the flywheel door.
You have another historic photograph there. What is that?
Oh yeah, I wanted to pass you. Any of your friends had given you these already, but this is what the original doors were. And what I love about this photograph is above the original doors is this great circled window. It's such a shame that disappeared. And myself and the architects and the City Space Board, we were just so excited to see that. And that was the theme. The next page is where the idea then came from.
Okay.
But these are custom doors, and that's why that door price is just so outrageous, because we're getting into that custom door. And three sets of them.
Do you have any idea what happened to the old doors?
I don't. And we looked in the basement. We were hoping that maybe
Yeah, maybe they'd be down there.
we thought maybe they might be around, but they're not.
There's lots of doors down there. but
Yeah.
that one.
Not that one.
Yeah.
Harry, I know you have. No?
There's too many questions, it just overpowers me, so I can listen to everything.
Yeah, please. please.
So the front, these would be on the front of the building.
That's the
And there's,
exterior, right.
The larger door in this, and this would be the smaller, you're
That's-
gonna replace all the doors in the front.
Absolutely. The
right? You're not
larger
gonna-
door is the center door,
And then
and then what's on the side would be on
On
each
the
side.
side,
The-
right.
yeah, the
So
design
there's
for it.
three total.
So basically, we're taking the panel door, but we're putting glass in it, in some of the panels, so that we can get more light into the lobby.
And then these doors would be
Into that
hallway.
That would replace this.
right, into the hallway.
Yes, exactly. And they're just giving us
And then the
option
last
A.
one would be
The flywheel
the
door,
flywheel.
which is on the
Right, I'm just trying to get the.
And that's what would be the next page.
Right.
Yeah. And at one point, what was very interesting.
Feel free to ask.
What was interesting is, at one point, I asked the architects about this partition, this doorway. I said, well, instead of doing all this molding and all these panels, can't we just have a glass a glass partition with glass doors, so we see right into the center corridor. And I
Is that a
asked,
fire?
no,
No?
you can do that, because museums do this all
Yeah.
the time. And then they ran the numbers up, and it was just, I was surprised, it was just as expensive as doing what the drawings are. So I was like, all right, well, that didn't really help us. Yeah.
So if I understand this correctly, the drawings, you know, had sort of the diagonals here, these are actually panes in
That's
the
glass.
doors.
That represents that glass would be
And
there.
the main corridor door is going to be similar kind of wood as your front door, is that right? Or is it going to be,
I would say the style is the same. I actually don't know if the wood
Don't
is
know
the
if the
same. I
material-
would believe they
some
would use a
kind of
harder wood for the exterior door. That's more what, can take the weather.
I got a question about the plumbing.
Yes.
What kind of piping are you gonna be using?
Ooh, I don't know if I can answer that. I can't answer that, I don't know. But I can find out certainly.
Why-
And Melissa,
why
would
do
you,
ask? Just curious.
do you know
Is
anything
there-
about that?
Because I've had steel piping in mine, now it's all plastic,
Mhm, mhm.
and it's a lot better.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
pretty much
understand.
what
I don't know if that's what they're gonna
it
do, I don't know how
Yeah.
the codes.
Yeah.
My understanding, and I'm not a plumber, nor do I know anything about that, but I think it matters if you have copper and then you want to connect to the PVC, it doesn't work as well.
Mhm.
So it depends on how much they're going to run and if they can make the connection.
Copper's expensive.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think they've come up with connectors now between the two types, and I don't see why that something behind the wall would have to be copper, unless it was just easier because of, they're doing a short section, you know, versus having to run a longer line. I can't imagine that.
You probably just can't hide the connection between two different
Yeah.
items.
When was the building built?
1869.
It might be, I know my house is all cast iron.
Yeah, no, this is.
As we mentioned, the one toilet was, the piping was reversed.
The drain. It was actually going on. And I don't know, Melissa, if you want to talk about just the contingency that's in this at all, because there is
There is a
significant-
substantial contingency in there, and I
Yeah.
think that's just because they're concerned about the age of the building, and, you know, they were able to see the piping and go, oh, well, this is gonna be a problem, let's address it now while we're talking about bidding it out, versus when they take the wall down in the bathroom and go, oh, look at this.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's just the concern, because you just don't know on a building this old how many times it's been pulled down and put back up, and what happened in between necessarily. And the codes have changed, so, you know, once you start moving stuff, so that's why the contingency is 20, you know, 10 to 20, where 10 might be sufficient. They're just thinking the age of the building and what they can't see. And, you know, hopefully not necessary, but.
Right, right. But it is, 30 to 60,000 that we're putting in there for that. And, which is a lot of money.
So how would we handle the contingency? Would we vote for that now, or would we just?
I mean, most all contracts have a contingency. I mean, I would
Right.
think it'd be prudent to put it in. Whether
Right.
you wanted to put in the 10 or the 20, I think would be our decision, but I think we should put
Right,
in
right.
some type of
Yeah,
contingency.
because when we actually get the bid in, we aren't gonna wanna do a bid for the full amount of the mounting we have. We wanna have a little cushion in case something pops up in the middle of construction, that we have a little wiggle room. And certainly if we didn't run into any problems at all and the bid came in way under, then we would only ask for reimbursement for what was spent.
Yes.
Right.
Melissa, and I understand the contingent, what's the contractor OP? You know?
Typically, contractors, you know, these prices are prices for, like, the doors are X number of dollars and labor is X, and they do operating expense for their bond and their
That's how
their
they get paid,
insurance
their
that they
markup
cover.
to get
That's
paid.
how they make their money.
Instead of getting paid per hour, they get paid by
Gotcha.
the cost, the
I
value
was
of the
just wondering.
project.
And I'm gonna ask the question that I know Dan always asks. If there's something disastrous and you end up spending $400,000, what happens then? Like, can you cover that? Is there like, do you have plans to take out a loan? Because I don't know, like if you could, I mean, you could obviously come back to us, but I don't know how that would go. Like if you, I don't know if you've thought about it, but that's one of his favorite questions to ask. So I'm beating him to it.
I mean, City Space does have its own, account, and we have about $27,000 in our account right now.
Okay.
And, if we have to tap it, if we have to contribute to that, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
Have you?
He's an accountant.
Okay.
Have you broken down your priorities if for some reason in the early stages you figure out this is going to be, you're going to have a bunch of contingent costs and what your priorities are for, are you going to
Yes,
not do the corridor and
Well, I think-
focus on the
yes.
front? I mean,
I did that.
Yeah.
So I know exactly how much the lobby costs, the upper lobby, the doors to the partition, the flywheel doors, and the painting the hallway costs.
But I would say, yes, the
in that order? I mean,
Well, no,
I put it on my screen.
So
I
I
would
guess my
say-
question is,
I would say the priority
priority-wise.
is walking into the building is the priority. Going through those front doors, that lobby is a priority, those bathrooms are the priority. As we keep moving back, that is not a priority. Yeah.
And is from a project management standpoint,
Mhm.
are things queued up in such a way that you would be able to, I mean, I'm assuming the timeline is such that that corridor would happen sequentially after most of the front work
Right.
gets done, is that right? In case,
Yes.
Well, the abatement is first,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
restrooms. Obviously, the restrooms are for public use, so that will be, I think, the first on the list.
And
and the last thing I want is for you to, like if something does come up, you have a certain amount of funds, you run out of funds, and you have, everything that's partially done versus,
Right.
some things that are completely done.
Right. No, absolutely. And we do have to prioritize what's the most important to us.
Right.
You know?
It sounds like I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask the question.
And I also want to point out, with the actual time frame and the work, that Town Hall is actually really busy over the holidays. That's probably the busiest time. So, like if they want to start the bathrooms, fine, but we actually don't want them to do the floors until after the new year, because just to keep the building open.
Yeah, we have businesses and
Yeah.
nonprofits and they're operating,
And
full-time.
that's their busiest season. So we were trying to keep that in mind as well.
I think Melissa may have answered some of it. I was having a little trouble, or not trouble, but kind of trying to figure out Division 2, 6, 7. In other words, like, I assume it's like the materials, but
Right.
I think it would be helpful if either your Melissa spreadsheet or, we knew like what the actual front door cost, as opposed to, it looks like they broke it all down by, here's the composite and so much for the finish and so much, but it doesn't really tell you exactly like,
Well,
Or does it?
it is.
Maybe you
Division
could
A is the openings.
so
are
the 69,000 would be the two door.
for the
For those two front
For the
doors.
three.
Three front doors.
Yeah, the
And
three.
the-
Openings
and-
is those doors. Yeah.
So what is then like let's go with like the flywheel, because that was easy.
Yeah.
Flywheel door, open, when it says opening Division 8, so the door 16,000.
Right.
Yes.
But when it says flywheel opening wood, plastic, and composites, 3,900, what is that? In Division 6.
Well, finishes. It's under finishes. So they're saying that, like,
Yeah.
whether if you're staining the
Well,
wood, if you're.
finishes is actually 9.
No, finishes is 9, that's what
Yeah. He said they were like,
That's what I'm trying to get my hand around. In other words, what finishes are versus wood and composite is, and what, I get
I
this for.
think it's like the ceiling of the door and the finishes is like carpentry and then he says.
Maybe in trim, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's also the thing about the flywheel door is why that's a
Yeah,
high.
rough carpentry, finished carpentries in
Right.
6, and then 9 is probably hardware. 9 is basic finishing materials, supporting metal assembly, casing, ceilings, floor. So they're both carpentry finish out products. So one of them has the hardware in it and like the sometimes there's a
Oh, the threshold?
threshold.
Yeah, threshold, yeah. One thing I want to mention about the
So I had to
flywheel
get the
door.
sheet from the proposing. Jim got it for me, so I was like, I don't know what this means.
So I
Appreciate
should
it.
distribute that sheet with the budget.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, except it
Stands.
only goes up to Division 16, at least what we have.
Well,
And this has 22, 23, and 26.
Yeah,
Well,
there
those
are
are,
two different codes. One has 50 divisions, one has 16. And
so you told me specialties is
Most of them.
like the bars and stuff in the bathroom, and then plumbing is plumbing,
Mhm.
and HVAC is all the
Yeah.
heat and ductwork, and electrical is electrical. So those were pretty straightforward. It was these finishes and that's what it was. Sealants are in the thermal moisture. Those are all the sealants and caulking for bathrooms and at the edgings of the thresholds.
Yeah. What I was going to mention is when Flywheel first moved into the space, we initially had a little trouble because of the bands that would play there, and the apartment building next door complained a lot. And so they put in soundproofing on the walls, and when we were talking to the architects, we had mentioned if we do replace the Flywheel doors, we have to have something that's soundproof, you know. And so again, it's just another factor. Is that it's just, you know, they were considering all these different things, and that also added to the price.
This is primarily going to be an arts space,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Have you considered, I mean, I love these round windows.
Yeah, I do too.
And it occurs to me that there probably are people who would also love to participate in whether that's stained glass or other kinds of things with some of these openings.
Mm-hmm.
And I only mention that because it is primarily an art space, and it's a community space.
Yeah.
And it's also potentially something that our local artists would be interested in getting involved with. I'm not sure that works from a project management or timetable standpoint, but I also wonder from a cost savings standpoint, if you've thought about sort of tapping the craftsmanship and artistry of our local talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a wonderful idea. I guess because we've been dealing with this, it's a city building and there has to be prevailing wage, and there was just so many restrictions that I just don't know enough about the rules.
Well, I'll say with the outdoor doors, and this is a
That's right.
historic
That's
building,
right.
and
That's
the doors
Yeah.
outside, if we want to maintain that National Historic Registry,
Yeah.
we need to, they have less flexibility in their appearance. They sort of have to appear more of the period of the building and the original doors. So outside, I don't think that that's an option. Inside, I think we have a little more flexibility.
I was kind of thinking about both the corridor entrance and the flywheel, and you sort of have two
Absolutely. Yeah.
beautiful sort of glass openings, but and you also have panes on the sides
Yeah, yeah,
and so
yeah.
forth. I
No,
only
I-
throw that out there as
Sure,
an
it's interesting.
idea.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's
And we
it's something to think
Yeah.
about when you have such a great pool of talent locally, and also are looking at something that's
Friends, do you want to
significant.
do something?
I think that's a great point. And in regards to the interior glass, we have talked about the interior paint coloring, and because there are no historic photos of, a certain period of time at the building of it, we don't know what the initial colors were. And since it doesn't have to be as historic in the interior, that we were thinking of making that more colorful. There's a lot of exposed piping that's sort of oddly placed throughout.
Right,
And I don't
yeah.
know if you're familiar with something like Mill 180, how they have colored pipes outside. We're thinking of sort of, riffing off of that somewhat. But as far as including artists, that's a really good idea, I think.
Yeah, me too. I don't think we can do it to the exterior, again, like Melissa said, because of the...
No, and I really wasn't thinking of necessarily
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
facade so much, but that's only one portion of what you're
Jamie, do you?
looking to do. So.
Right.
I don't think you would see a cost savings.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
I don't think you would see cost savings, but you would see, you know, a community involvement as part of it, and a nod to the arts community here, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who takes care of the building when it's, so it's all done? You know, it's all renovated and everything else. Who actually takes care of it?
So this is a city-owned building, and it is leased by City Space, and they have a lease that is 10 years long, I believe. I'm not sure when it's up, and they pay rent to the city every month for that space. And so we, ultimately, the city is responsible for the building, and but I believe it's part of the lease is some of the day-to-day upkeep. But
Well,
you know,
exact-
we
what
mow the
exactly-
lawn, and if the roof caves in, it's our building and we own it.
Well, who in the city takes care of it? Is it the DPW? Is it the, what
Well,
is it?
You know what, it depends.
Building inspector,
You know what,
no.
it depends what the issue is. Like, City Space pays for, in the winter, getting rid of the snow.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
does the sidewalks and the.
City Space
stairs
pays
and
for
all
that. We pay for that. We have an outside
You
company
guys
do
don't?
it, yeah. We
It's
have
part
an
of
out.
your contract with the city?
Or
Part of your lease?
the tenants pay for it.
Or the
City
tenants
Space
pay,
pays
or the tenants pay
Mhm.
for it. We pay for cleaning, you know. Now, if something is.
General maintenance. Like
Yeah. Now, if something is bigger than we think we're capable of just calling up a contractor to do, then we contact the city. And then we go through the city. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, more or less, yeah. I'm just wondering if it's snowing now and it's really, really bad, who do you call? You call the,
We in the beginning of the season, we always line somebody up to do it for the season.
I'm concerned if somebody defaces or breaks the panes on the front door.
yeah, you've got a lot of
front door, what
responsibility. You're gonna
happens,
spend all this money, you've gotta have somebody. Just can't say, well, we're gonna call somebody down to do it, you know, take care of the snow and any damage the doors, and then, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, everybody, all the contractors we work with are insured and fully insured, and we would have to take care of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Currently, the doors are very, you know, it would be easy to break in there. They're not very safe right now. They've been broken before, and, you know, I think that the city has replaced them. I'm not sure if City Space has replaced them in the past too, the front doors.
Not the doors, no, the city
Yeah.
took care of it at that time. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's generally a very safe building, as most of Easthampton is. And it's utilized 6 days a week by the different organizations and businesses who are there. And I think everybody who is a working person in the building takes pride in being there and does their part as far as the maintenance goes within cleaning or taking care of things. So I think that's also a positive factor. Jerry, who is the maintenance worker for the city, also is in there quite a bit and knows that building back and forth.
Yeah. He is kind of one of our point people, Jerry, just because he knows the building so well.
Just, it may be here, I just can't find it around the other sheet. What did you decide on the flooring? I know you're gonna take the tile up, but what is gonna go down? I know that Carter's wood, as I recall, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's
What are you
going to be a
do?
hardwood floor.
So it's
Yeah.
gonna be wood.
I would think it's going to be oak.
Okay.
But we haven't gotten to the point of where we've actually picked paint or finishes or anything.
No, I didn't mean the actual, you know,
Right, but it
was it wood versus,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
hardwood
some
floor.
composite or whatever. but
Because
it's-
the
you
center
I know
hall
the
is-
center hall is wood.
So
that's
we
why.
want to match to
Okay.
that, yeah.
It's linoleum right now, right?
Yeah.
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 Green.
Yeah, it's lovely.
In very good shape.
Questions on that end? Guys?
So if I do all the math, is it $266,000 that you're looking for?
It is around there, yes.
Yeah.
266,
Yeah.
245.
Yes, yeah.
You still have the $133,000 from the grant.
Right.
Right, exactly.
You see the number, don't you?
I think it's 266,245.
And how much was it originally, 117 or
It was
something?
117 originally.
Now it's almost 270?
But again, that's, again, that initial figure, you know, the artists didn't realize that we wanted this extended work down the hall, so just keep that in mind.
I understand.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
numbers were several years old.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We will need an updated cover sheet, just for formality's sake,
Okay.
with a new amount, right? Yes, I'm not making
Okay.
that up. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. But, no rush.
I can get that to you Monday.
Is, just for my own, I don't know if any of the other board members want it, is there a way that you can break down the, and Melissa probably has this already, so maybe it's something you can get through Melissa, just sort of break down like the front doors, the lobby. I mean, I think the lobby and the up part, I all consider that one, and then what the car, just like to break down the final numbers of, does that make sense?
So, with my math,
Okay.
we're risky. I, including the front doors and the lobby, lobby only, I have it as $298,000 plus or minus a few $100. And then the upper lobby, that is about, you know, it's $7,200 as you see as the addendum on this, but it, you know, if you add in all the contingencies, architect fees on that, it comes to about 10, 11. The corridor opening, either option, Ed had done 2 options with the architect, around $47,000. The hallway, the corridor itself, 7 for the actual hallway. If you add in the contingency and architect fees and all that, it's about 10. And the flywheel doors come out around 35.
What was 5?
35.
35.
Okay, that gives me a little bit around.
So you have until June to use the grant money,
The project is supposed to be completed by June.
so you should spend that first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the doors.
Any other questions, you guys?
So that 47,000 was for the corridor entryway? Is that
Right.
But not the actual corridor?
Right, that's like, you know, the painting of the
Because not much is
Yeah.
happening in the corridor.
That's-
so
It's that
painting
drawing
is-
there, yeah. Yeah.
That's, you know, 7 to 10.
It's such a high, that hallway's high. I mean, it's, how tall do you, 16 feet, that archway and things.
Yeah.
I know, oh, I'm sorry, I know when I walked through it, a lot of the pages is peeling, and I mentioned the birds and birds, kind of, we're talking, and at some point we were saying, could we expose, or could it be exposed, rather than repainting it, like to have it all the metal, which I think would be, but did they ever figure that out?
No,
Was that even
we
more-
actually had that discussion, and.
I mean, I just think it would have looked.
Oh, absolutely, no.
It has
but-
an iridescent.
We do.
It has an iridescent
Yeah,
color to it.
yeah, but it's a Pandora's box. When you start to get to getting, it actually is cheaper to cover over it. If we were to start removing it, I think our cost would even be higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my question, I guess, is, would you see it, and I'm sure, you know, I guess you'd have to ask the contractor, but you know, sometimes you see with older homes, you know, like historic homes, once they start peeling like that, even when they replace the paint, they tend to peel again. And I just, you know, wonder, you know, I think you'd have to be very careful, whoever does that painting,
Sure.
to make sure it lasted, you know.
Inside of Flywheel, we had a lot of paint flaking from our ceiling, and the way it was painted and covered, it hasn't had much flaking
Since
since we've been
then.
there, since 2010.
Yeah.
The architects are very aware of that, and they actually, when they did the initial walkthrough, talked about the iridescent look and how that would be really nice, but looked into that possibility about repainting versus taking it off, because there's some portions, as you notice, that are just peeling off, but
Right.
some are
Look
really,
easy,
they're on
like
there,
it could
you
be,
know?
but some of it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And they did also point out that as nice as those tin
Panels
finishes,
look.
they're not original.
Oh, they're not.
Oh, really?
It's a
No.
later period.
It's a later.
Huh.
And they were often put up to
Yeah.
retain the plaster
Plaster.
that was falling down, so we don't want to take that
Yeah, the
down.
plaster was.
So you don't want to look above them, see what
Yeah, it was.
the whole roof might be.
It's around 1900s where tin, that punch tin became really popular. And it was designed for that because all the plaster was crumbling, so then they would cover it up.
Those are staying. Those are being removed.
Oh, the tin
They're
was
staying,
staying,
the tin
yeah.
is staying.
Yeah.
And then on metal, that's the rest of it.
Good for now.
Good. All set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what is the next step?
Jamie?
It's up to the committee.
Yeah, right, we're officially, like,
I mean, if today's the end of this quarter's funding cycle, so if you, committee wants to vote, it's up to the committee, if you guys want, it's up to you guys
Yeah.
to decide what you want to do and how you want to proceed.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I always took the funding cycle as it had to be brought to the committee within that cycle, didn't mean we had to, you get what I'm saying, that we had to.
well, it sort of depended.
You know what I'm saying?
But, yeah.
As long as the end during the cycle, I could see, if we went, because I just think we should really, or at least I'd like to, at least want to have one more meeting to kind of break it down by the section, decide whether, again, a little like we did with the soccer, do we want to,
Yeah.
really break it down, do we want to do the whole thing, do we want to do part of it, or and just for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for that.
So do we want to ask them for a different breakout?
Well, I think what Melissa gave us kind of is helpful. I mean, I think as we go over it, if we have other questions, I could either go to Melissa or anybody. I mean, if anybody on the committee wants it different, I mean, I kind of think now I got a little, it's just I haven't really had time to kind of mull it all over.
I mean, you have such a terrific spreadsheet, I don't know, is that worth sharing, or?
I'll give it to them if they want.
Yeah, it was helpful for me.
How's everybody else? I'm comfortable voting, but
I'm comfortable voting also.
Well, anyway, we should.
If we're gonna vote, I mean,
we'll either
I'd
make
be
a
interested in
decision
having a
tonight
little
or
more-
next month. For your answer.
Well, you know what, I guess why we're asking, because needless to say, there's the architects are all like,
Yeah, what's
okay,
going on?
what
Yeah.
are we doing, or are we gonna, and so everybody's sort of lined up waiting for an answer.
We'll let you know what we decide.
Okay.
Either way tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have till tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm always inclined to try to ungum the sort of wheels of bureaucracy to,
Yeah.
get things moving, especially with a timetable and so forth. And at the same time, I appreciate having a little bit of time to digest what has just jumped from a $117,000 project to something more substantial. So maybe as a starting point, I'd just like to get other sort of perspective or thought on what that actually means for, like, what are there any real downsides to not moving ahead with funding, to funding this at the new level? Does that potentially take away from other, I mean, we don't have like a ton of, I just want to sort of open up the conversation a little
Yeah.
bit. I support this project fully. I think it's a great project.
Yeah.
I'm a little daunted by the 100 and whatever percent
Right.
increase that just happened from 117,000 to 266 or something like that. So I just wanted to kind of, I don't even know what my question is, except that I wouldn't want to go ahead and move to vote without having some, I feel like I'm missing a peripheral vision kind of piece of this. Like, are there other things that we're not thinking of that could,
Well, even if there-
should be considered before we kind of bring
Right.
this to a vote?
Even if there were other
Totally agree with
big, we don't have, at least not that, we don't have any other historic preservation projects coming forward to us that I'm aware of. I think sort of the big ones in Easthampton that we know of. We have $1.4 million sitting in unrestricted right now. Right now, the only other outstanding project is Land Trust, which is held up by the state. And even if they do move forward, it's not a large amount of money. So as far as I'm aware, and I think the Housing Partnership may be coming to us for some money too, but it's, $50,000-ish or less. So we don't have any large projects. I have worked in historic preservation in my last job, and I'm well aware that this is not outrageous. I mean, this is sort of par for the course when you're doing old building renovations and having to keep it up with maintaining particularly the exterior of the building. But Dan, I totally appreciate, and you are the one who then's going to have to go deal with finance and city council, so I know that you want to make sure all your ducks are in a row.
Yeah,
and you understand.
I guess why I'm, again, and I'm not trying to hold up the project.
No, I know.
I guess I'm just, again, we doubled the project. I guess I just wanted to take myself, I would not vote for it tonight. And I think in my tour, I'm very supportive of the project in general, but I would not vote for it tonight.
Okay.
Because I don't know, do we go with the 10%, do we go with the 20% contingent? I mean, do we want to fund it all? Maybe we do. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't. And again, I'd like to see how, like, the flywheel doors were something we never really talked about. But looking at it, I think it might be something that I would certainly support. But, again, I always like a little time. I know, government does not always move fast.
So, just so I understand, being relatively new, what are the risks really of sort of overfunding? Because not overfunding, but this is a kind of a cost reimbursement sort of grant, right?
They all are.
Right.
Any money
So
we give is.
I just want to understand a little bit more.
No, I guess my concern a
10
little.
versus 20% or whatever.
Well, because I guess it's human nature, and again, I'm not casting dispersions on the building community, but to me, if they have 60,000 out there contingent,
They'll use
or
it.
they got 30 out here contingent, most of the time I see them, they use a good part of the contingent. So I'm just saying, do we, I guess that's the type of thing I'm talking about. And again, I'm not picking on these particular people, I'm talking in general terms of how I've seen projects go, and Harry could probably talk from the planning standpoint. So I think that's a little bit of my concern. And again, also the expansion of, again, the corridor, which I think maybe we should all do it. Maybe we should do it. I probably would be supportive of it when I think about it. I guess I just haven't really
Had time to process.
had time to say, yes, I would. I mean, I guess it's a little bit like I was very supportive of, you were not at that time, but when soccer and baseball both came, I thought they were both great projects, but I think when the final number came in, we did say in that particular instance, let's slow down here, let's do one. Yeah, and I'm not saying maybe this is different, I'm not saying that we should do that here. I guess I just would like to take, myself, one more meeting to look at it. But, again, if you guys want to march forward, I can do that on the finance subcommittee, so it doesn't.
Well, it sounds like, Greg, you're a little wanting some time to process too.
No, I wanted to have time to kind of converse about. I mean, I wasn't ready to vote right after sort of the general conversation, so it doesn't mean I'm not ready to vote tonight. I think I probably could vote tonight. At this point, I kind of feel like we have maybe 3 options, and one is to kind of kick the can down the road to, next meeting and vote at the next meeting. We could also vote fully for the full amount, or we could vote for something different. And those seems to be, sort of like 3 tonight. And so I wanted to just, since we're all here tonight, if we walk out of here, without voting, the decision's been made that we're not going to vote. Presumably, we're going to vote next meeting or something. But since we're all still here, I was thinking, is there any chance that we would want to discuss or consider something other than the full requested amount for approval now?
Yeah.
And then the remainder, I mean, this is sort of what you're getting at, Dan, the remainder break it out, in other words. And is there a reason to consider that or think about that?
I mean, I think, Dan, the difference with the soccer, baseball is that it was two very separate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it was like a huge dollar amount. It was slightly horrifying. I'm honestly in favor of funding the whole thing because I feel like even though the hallway is slightly detached from the lobby, it's still all part of the first
Well,
floor.
Melissa's numbers too indicate that practically $300,000
Yeah.
is all
So
the
you're not-
facade and front lobby and bathroom
Unless the
work,
only
and that's-
thing-
So,
right.
you know, it's really, I mean, I'm not advocating
Yeah,
for
no,
breaking
yeah.
it out, I'm just sort of identifying that as a
Yeah.
Well, how would you
possible path.
prioritize it? If you were to prioritize and say, okay, we're gonna give them 30% or 50%, how do we know what's a priority? I certainly don't know.
No, I don't know.
Well, I think, my sense from what I've heard is the priority is to do
Front lobby.
the front lobby,
Yeah.
you
Just the
know.
front
And the
lobby.
bathrooms,
And
because
the
it's
porta-
not
Which is
only
part of it, yeah, I
buildings,
consider that
yeah.
part of
I mean, they're
it.
gonna be back anyway, so if we just gave them that amount of money, whatever it breaks down to, they're gonna come back and tag us again.
Yes, I would assume as much.
They may as well just get the whole thing all done and that's it.
I agree with you.
I kind of thought that's what the general gist of the last meeting was, when they came in originally and said just the lobby, we kind of more or less led that, the direction I took from the last meeting was that
Get
maybe
new
they were
pricing.
thinking too small, maybe they
Yeah.
should look at the whole project, so this is what the whole project turned out to be. I mean, originally, at the last meeting, all I heard was front lobby, but then I heard near the end of the meeting, I could have sworn someone said, well, you sure that's what you want? You know, we'd rather fund you once
Yeah.
and do it all,
That's
rather
right,
than
that's
have you
right.
come back yeah, what's that? He's not here, but,
Yeah.
you'd rather have you come back 4 times and do the, you know, that's why I asked the question, will this cover the whole first floor? And if that's what it's gonna do, then, I mean, that's why I'm saying I'm ready to vote.
Chance, if we break it down, more likely, that's gonna screw up everything, then they're gonna have to come back with more bids.
That's gonna be
Right,
more
Because
expensive.
probably
expensive.
gonna have, they're gonna be
Yeah.
done,
Absolutely right.
then they gotta resubmit that, and it's probably gonna cost even more,
Yes, I think so.
you know? Gotta suck it up and just pay, I guess.
Now look at what the contingency is and say, okay, we only give you 10% to go with Dan's, they'll spend the money if the contractor will spend the money if they know it's there.
People that understand construction better than I do can answer that question, because I don't know.
That's a good point, yeah,
I'm ready to vote this evening also.
that's a good point.
But I think it is important to kind of nail down what the contingency level is in dollar amount as that we're voting on.
Just
Please.
typically, contingency is 10% for most construction projects, but because it is a historic structure, and as Melissa said, once you start opening up the walls,
You don't know.
you don't know, and where you reach code violations, they have to be addressed. And with an old structure, they definitely don't need code. You know, you could have knobbing tube wiring there, you can have.
Well, who's the person that's riding herd over all this? How do you know some guy's gonna go in and start taking things apart and say, oh yeah, we got this wiring job over here, that doesn't even exist? I mean, who's overseeing this whole thing?
Well, the architectural firm that we hired, that we're paying a lot of money to, have electrical and structural engineers on staff. And that's a big reason that we went with them, so that they oversee.
So they're
the work.
trustworthy then, right?
Well, they've worked on this building before in the past, and we've had good experience with them.
Well, it's good, I'm only asking.
I mean,
they
because
can
I'm
just say,
I'm
well,
not
we have to
a
put new
construction
this or
person, I
that, or
certainly
anything
have to rely on someone who
Well,
knows.
your expertise.
Yeah.
And it's positive because they have been part of this project from the beginning, so they will be the project managers for the construction, which will be helpful, I think.
This is almost like the football field, we're gonna build a brand new football field for 300 grand, but nobody knows who's gonna take care of it. I mean, it's almost that same kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think that's totally true. The
Well,
football
not like
field was
that, but
less
you know what I'm
clear
saying.
with me. But I think this, I mean, the city is, it's like, I have tenants, like my tenants, if they drop crap in the hallway, they have to pick it up. But if the building collapses, I have to deal with it. So it's sort of the same, I mean, the City Arts has all these leases who then pay into them, and then they cover like heating and snow removal and general maintenance. Whereas if there's a big catastrophic, the roof caves in, the city is responsible for the building ultimately.
Plus, this is the center of town.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put money into something, make it.
Well, first of all, is this building structurally sound to begin with? I mean, are we gonna be putting a roof on this thing in another 5 or 10 years, so are we coming
There
down?
was just
to
a roof put on it.
Yeah, there was a roof recently.
Roof just was put on recently?
Well, before I worked in the city, but I'm sure the CPA paid for it some years ago.
Well, the bottom line is if a roof needed to be put on, I mean, the building's a Easthampton treasure. I can't imagine
Yeah, it
this
had to be
building
so.
going away or, you know, so,
I
And it's being utilized.
whether the roof
currently.
is new or not, I mean,
You know, I mean, we could be copping up 300 grand for a roof, or, you know, down a road, or...
I'm sure whatever was,
It's really gonna be a lot more than that for the second floor and some window repair, if you
Yeah.
wanna know the truth. I mean, that's,
but if a roof was put on within the existence of CPA, it has to be at least within the past 10 years-ish.
Yeah, I don't have a line item for the roof, but I
there
remember
were
that
other-
it was a slate roof that went in, it was very expensive, and I'm not sure where the money came from, but it was completely replaced within the last 10 or 15 years, and it's gonna last for
100.
another 150 years.
It'll outlast you, Gary. And then
Rudy
you won't
went,
be
Rudy
doing
went to
much.
slate roof thing with the church, you know? And he put plastic up there.
All right, guys.
They fixed the clock.
They fixed the clock. It's finally
Exactly, and
working.
it's still working, still.
What do you guys think about contingency?
Do you want to give them the 10% instead of the 20% and start there?
I don't know.
Give them no percent?
I've dealt with old houses, so I
Yeah.
understand the pain of, oh shit, the wall came down that once.
I went Jay on this one, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, that's why I wanted another meeting to come all over. I couldn't make it, I wouldn't want to make a decision tonight. And as I said, I won't make a decision tonight.
Okay.
But certainly, I'm only one person on the committee, so.
But with the knowledge of 4 or 5.
Well, I don't know about that.
I mean, whether I sit here and look at this tonight and get these numbers and hash everything over, and
Yeah.
come back next month, I'm not gonna have any more of a difference. It's
Right.
not gonna make a difference to me.
I feel
personally.
exactly the same way, which is why I'd rather honestly just sort
I
it
mean,
out rather than
no.
drag it out. Plus, I might not be here next month, and I know that
Dan
would make
probably
you guys
knows
all
more
so
about it than I
sad.
do. I don't mind. We can look at this now or next week, it just isn't gonna matter.
So-
So. Crunch numbers.
Do we split the difference and go
That's what I was
15%?
gonna say.
that was, yeah.
Yeah.
Why
So-
why don't we propose that?
Can someone with a
He's all.
ability, sorry,
Need
Chad.
a spreadsheet over here now.
I think it's about $15,000 less.
So it'll be 45 grand, roughly.
For the contingency, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did we say the architect costs were?
30,000.
They're gonna be 10% of whatever total construction budget typically.
Oh, the architect cost is based on the total construction
Typically,
budget?
Yeah, it's in their contract.
yeah.
To not exceed 10% of construction.
I don't get on these flippers.
Oh, to not exceed 10%. So it's capped at,
It's got that.
So I'm at, if
So-
we put 15% in, I'm at 251,162.
Okay.
Unchecked number.
That seems right.
Yeah.
let me check the
Yeah.
number.
Let's go 15 less.
Thank you. I avoid math. Very typical female trait, unfortunately.
Yeah, if there's some here you don't like, you can always get it at the next level, right?
Can always get it a couple
Well,
levels.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you got 2 shots at it.
So,
You're at 246.
34.
Carried it.
I know, right? This is why
So
my brain is so.
331 and change minus 117. What'd you have?
I had 251,
162.
162.
250. What did you?
251, 162.
I didn't have that.
The calculator
Alright.
doesn't.
Yes. Oh boy. All right. So
Because what I, I mean,
What'd you
the
do?
way I'm seeing it is, we're looking at something that a 15% contingency. That's about the total price at the bottom, 340.
I'm using the 15% of the $301,000 number like they did.
15% of the $301,000.
Yes, they got their 10% or 20%
Correct.
from the $301,000 number.
That's where I'm at too.
Okay.
So I'm
then you're just adding.
I'm just saying the total cost at 15% is going to be about 346. and maybe 346,900, somewhere in there. And then 10% is the cap on the architect fees. So we're looking at architect fees that are capped at 34,690 or
I was
thereabouts.
using 30,000 for that number, architect fee.
I see. So
You were using 30J on
Just 30,
301.
because that was the number I heard, I
Yeah.
wrote it down.
yeah. Well, which is the appropriate number? 10%
I think you
or
would
the?
have to include the contingency in the architect's fee, because if something, let's say they discover something in the walls that needs to be designed, or they need to bring in their engineers, the architects would need to.
So it needs to be 10% of 346.
I'm inclined to do that as well.
Yeah, so I would think
So-
it's the
Or
30.
15% of the 30,000 additional. We're doing 15% contingency.
So-
Yeah, so then the 10% architect's fee would have to be inclusive of the contingency
So we
plus
take
the original
30,000
cost.
and we add 15% on
I have 264,500.
Say that number again?
264,500.
Would be the cost of the CPA.
Cost
Yes.
the CPA.
264, 500.
Yep,
Rounded to,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, boy, this thing gets in this paper.
It's okay. For me. Me. That makes sense to me, what you came up with, in my limited knowledge of numbers.
And I'm actually more comfortable given that that 10% architect fee includes the contingency, which essentially increases it from a $30,000 level to close to $35,000 anyhow, in using the 15% contingency, because we're kind of padding with the architect
Yeah,
an additional 10%, so.
Guarantee you'll find something. Guaranteed.
I'm sure.
I'm ready.
Is your 72.5 on that, or is that extra?
That's extra.
So you didn't add that into your
We
total?
did not add that
I was adding it originally.
in.
Was it back page?
Greg is
Look at
adding
that.
that in or not.
It shouldn't change the total too much.
No, I mean, it's $7,200. And it includes $5,000 abatement on
Anybody
the,
want to sign that on that
it's
15 grand?
found. Include it or not include it?
We would have to add what?
70.
Overhead and other things to the 7250, is that right? This is just the
I don't think so.
raw cost. Well, I could fund it at around 270.
This is getting more expensive than what we said.
It is. 270 is a nice even number.
Is that your final answer?
It's the way to my golf shop, my driver.
I don't work by the penny.
I understand.
I want people to feel comfortable. I mean, I'm good with that, but
I'm fine with it too.
I mean, just to put
Yeah.
it into perspective, earlier in the meeting, Ed had said the total cost to the CPA, the full project at the 20% contingency was $266,245.
But we've
So
lowered the
somehow,
We've lowered the
reducing the contingency
contingency.
by 5%.
And it covers more?
Because I think that-
There's something wrong with the.
But I was using 30,000, I was not marking up the architectural fee, I was using a flat 30, and
And I
I
think
had the
that didn't
7250 in there.
The 7250.
It did have the 7250 in there.
the other reasons that the 15% contingency ended up higher than the 20% contingency.
Yeah. Going, what's going on here?
It's good. It's a good check, though.
So what are you guys, 270 or the 266? I feel like the
I'm good with-
266 did not
I
include the
think 270 is too
72.5.
high, but
Well, I'm only addressing the, the 264,500 was a pretty good number until I saw the backside here, which is an additional several
Right.
Well, you,
$1,000. So then I just rounded up to 270.
So I'm taking the architectural fee and saying it's $34.50 with a 15% markup. So do you agree with that number? $34,500
For the architect fees?
times 15%. Adding 15% of the 30,000 back into it.
You've lost me.
Well, we said we're gonna put a contingency fee on the $30,000 architectural fee. Are we doing that or no?
No. What we're saying is that the architect fee 10% should include the contingency portion
Yeah.
of what's budgeted here.
So what's,
So my calculation was, not to belabor the details here, but I had, without the architect fee, I had $346,900 thereabouts. So 10% of that was $34,690 for the 10% for the architect fee.
okay, well, I'm just trying to come up with numbers that we all agreed on, or will agree on, to add them up.
Of
So
course.
I'm bouncing around too much to,
Would it help if I came over and showed you?
it would help if we just agreed on what we're adding together.
Sure. 15% contingency.
So let's start with the
So what's
base.
15% contingency?
The base cost.
What's the number,
is-
35,000?
Right. I rounded to 346,900.
Well, what is the 15% should come up to 45,250? 15%
Sure.
of the 301.
Sure.
Yep.
So that would throw it over. That'd be 347.
Right, so 301. So 346.9. So 347 on the front page.
Yep. And then we're adding in the 7250.
Let's say 355.
354, 250, and then what are we adding in for architecture? Just 30,000?
I think that's where you're, 30,000 is what I said, because I was taking it from
Well, that's what I was.
without contingency, and what they're saying is, which is true, as you use the contingency and construction goes up, the architect fee will go up. So that's why their number is,
So we're going to make the architectural $30,000 number 15% higher.
Yep.
So that makes that 34,500. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we're at 389.5, right?
380 at 750, but because I'm using $354,250 and $34,500.
Right, sorry.
380,
380, 750 minus
250.
133 is the grant money. So 255, 750.
255.
Okay.
255.
Index vacation is 10%.
What did you see?
255, 750.
Yeah.
$255,000, 750, or $255,750.
All right, so humor me one more time and just walk through that step by step.
So I got 354, 250.
Okay, which includes the
That's a
contingency and the backside, right?
Yeah.
So 354, 250.
Then I had the architectural thing at 34,500 because that's 15% of 30,000. 34,500.
Okay.
And that got me to $388,750. And then I subtracted the $133,000 grant.
I didn't get to that step. So 354 plus 35.5 is going to get you at least 359
It was
or 389 and
it's
something.
34,500.
It's 35, 45. Yeah.
34,
34,500 is 15% over 30,000. So that's how I get the 388,750.
Aren't you taking 10% of your 354?
Yes.
We've already did 15% on the previous page to get to that.
The 15% is the contingency. You're talking about the 10% architects.
I use 15% on the architects also.
No, I think we're only doing 10.
So that changes the 34 number.
This is
I
what,
think Dan is
don't
right.
do this.
So that's $33,000 instead. If we're only using 10% on architect.
Yep.
Wait, so just to clarify then, so this whole first page and backside here, your number was 354, 250.
Yes.
And so
Not the architectural number.
no, which is not represented here. We're gonna add that in, but just everything that's on here in the back page,
Yes.
354, 250. Your 10% of that is gonna be 35,425.
Well, I'm only taking 10% of the 30,000. So that gives me 33,000.
All right.
Why aren't we taking 10% of the overall cost?
We're now taking 10% of the architectural fee.
We need to take 10% of the overall cost.
That's my understanding.
And I'm like losing my patience with numbers right now. So we either need to get on the same page or we're pushing this to next week. Or not next week, next month. So,
I think we can do this.
okay, I mean, I feel like we can too, but I feel like we're not. Something's not
Yes.
going. We either
Well,
need
I need a
spreadsheet.
whiteboard. We could just get it over with in a short while. But I think what we have is an overall cost of $354,250.
Yep.
And we would add 10%, which is fairly easy to calculate, $35,425. And then we back out our 117 and we're done. Am I right?
You're close enough. I don't understand the logic of it, but it's close enough a number for me to
Yeah.
agree with.
Yeah, I don't think it's too complicated.
So
So,
what's the?
I'll do it by hand here, but you can follow along. So, 354, 250, minus 35,425.
Why do you minus that?
No, you gotta.
No, you're
Oh,
adding
sorry,
it.
add in it. Thank you.
This is how you do taxes.
I don't do taxes, actually. Not anymore. Oh, so I have 389,670.
Yep.
Go with it.
You got that?
89, 670.
670.
Yep, and we're taking out
Minus
117.
117. That's the minus right there.
133.
133, I'm sorry.
Yes.
133 was the grant.
Oh. Where did they get the 117 number
This is what
from?
they asked us for originally.
Thank you. So, 256, 670. That's close to what you had.
So it's 256.
256. 256.
Going once.
How are we?
Yeah, let's go.
Good? Good?
So what is our final?
Good.
Rounded, or we're doing 256,
Yes.
Let's go round it to 256.
256.
Good. Everybody, deep breath. Okay.
Would we like to vote on this?
I think I would like to. I think this end of the table is happy to. I'm not so sure about this end of the table, but we'll see what happens.
All right, I move to vote to fund the old town hall renovation project at the $256,000 level, which would include a 15% contingency and incorporate the 10% architecture costs.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have Andy, Jay, Ed, me, Dan, Harry,
I'll abstain.
and you're abstaining.
I'm going to abstain at this time.
Okay.
I just don't feel comfortable with the whole project being funded. You know, to me, when I just, and you can have more debate before the final vote, but, you know, I was just looking like, again, again, I'm not saying Flywheel doesn't need a door, but I just added that up, and just that door on Flywheel is $21,000. I'm just, it's taxpayer money, and I just need a little time to digest whether it, again, I'm supportive of the project, but I can't tonight vote, so I'll definitely abstain.
There's 6 in favor.
We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to announce it?
Yes, okay, so. I don't know what my
I'll
official
abstain
announcement-
myself, but I get absolutely killed by somebody. So,
Okay. So we are going
you
to
know what I'm
fund,
talking about.
You ready? Oh,
City Arts, City of Easthampton, Old Town Hall at 256. Thank you, guys.
So thanks for staying over and working out those numbers.
Sure.
Thank you.
So, Jamie will send you what you need.
Keep in
Yeah.
touch.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna end the meeting, Jay. It's 7:45. Thank you. We're done with CPA.